Mikael Eino and Major John Rush, The Long Shadow. Northern Finland/USSR border region, summer 1974 to spring 1975. The Cold War was a patient predator, moving silently through snow and shadow. In the vast northern wilderness, two young men from different worlds found themselves thrown together along the edge of the Iron Curtain. Mission 1, The Fallen Eagle. Mikael Eino waited at the old hunter's cabin for 3 nights. On the 4th, Major John Rush appeared like a ghost from the trees. The American was lean, hard-eyed, and carried the quiet lethality of a man who had already survived hell in Southeast Asia. They shook hands in the half-light of the endless northern summer night. "You're late," Mikael said. "Patrols are heavier than usual," Rush replied. "A high-altitude reconnaissance plane went down 2 weeks ago. The pilot didn't make it, but the camera module and film canisters are still out there, scattered near a remote lake about 12 kilometers inside Soviet territory. We go in quiet, recover what we can, and get out before the search teams tighten the noose." Mikael studied the American. There was steel in him, but also something colder, the look of a man who had burned too many bridges. "You've done this before," Mikael said. "More times than I care to remember," Rush replied. "You." "Enough to know the forest forgives mistakes less than men do." They crossed the border that dusk. Mikael led through the dense taiga with forest-born instinct. Rush covered their rear with professional paranoia. During a long wait in a mosquito-infested ravine, their first real conversation began. "Why does a Finn risk this for American secrets?" Rush asked. Mikael stared into the darkness. "I don't. I risk it for Finland. The Soviets took too much from us in 1939 and 1944. If these films help keep them on their side of the border, I'll do it." Rush nodded. "I lost friends in Vietnam because politicians played games with maps. Sometimes the only way to do the right thing is outside the rules." Mikael's reply was quiet but firm. "Rules exist for a reason, Major. Without them, we become the monsters we fight." There was the first clash. The Finnish guardian who believed in balance versus the American soldier who had learned that justice sometimes required a heavy hand. They recovered 2 critical film canisters and part of the camera rig, but a Soviet patrol surprised them on the way out. The escape was desperate. They evaded capture for days, relying on each other, Mikael's knowledge of the forest and Rush's tactical skill. When a patrol cornered them, Rush took down 2 soldiers while Mikael silenced the 3rd. They crossed back into Finland, exhausted but successful. "You saved my life back there," Rush said as they parted. Mikael nodded. "And you mine. Perhaps we are not so different after all." Mission 2, The Defector's Shadow. 3 months later, a new message arrived. A high-ranking Soviet engineer wanted to defect. He had critical information on advanced guidance systems. The rendezvous was set in a remote area near the Norwegian border. Mikael was asked to guide him across. Rush was sent to handle extraction and verify the information. They met again in a small Norwegian fishing village. The tension between them was still there, but respect had grown. "This defector could be a trap," Mikael warned as they prepared to cross. Rush checked his weapon. "Everything is a trap. The question is whether the prize is worth it." The journey was treacherous. They crossed into Soviet territory during a storm. The engineer was waiting, terrified and carrying a small briefcase of documents. On the way back, double crosses began. A second Soviet team ambushed them. In the chaos, it became unclear who had betrayed whom: local Finnish contacts, Norwegian intelligence, or someone in the American chain. Rush took a graze to the arm protecting Mikael. Mikael carried the engineer to safety when Rush was pinned down. As they reached safety in Norway, Rush looked at Mikael. "You could have left me." Mikael helped bandage the wound. "I don't leave men behind, even stubborn Americans." Rush gave a rare, genuine laugh. "Noted." Mission 3, The Frozen Deception. The final mission of their uneasy partnership came in early 1975. A Soviet research vessel had run aground on a remote, frozen island in the far north, a barren rock surrounded by ice and secrecy. The ship carried advanced codebooks and a defecting officer with critical intelligence on Soviet plans for the Baltic. Mikael and Rush were sent in together, Mikael for his Arctic survival skills, Rush for his combat experience and extraction expertise. The journey by icebreaker and then small boat was brutal. The island was a frozen wasteland of rock, snow, and howling wind. The vessel was half sunk, guarded by a small Soviet team. They infiltrated at night. The operation turned into a tense cat-and-mouse game. A double agent within the Soviet crew tried to play both sides. Norwegian observers had their own agenda. Even their own handlers sent conflicting orders. During a long night hiding in an ice cave while Soviet search teams swept the area, their philosophical clash came to a head. Mikael said quietly, "This defector has a family. If we sacrifice him to get the codes, are we any better than them?" Rush's voice was hard. "Sometimes one life saves thousands. I learned that the hard way in Vietnam." Mikael met his eyes. "And I learned in the forest that every life matters. We are not gods, Major." They argued in whispers, but when the moment came, they worked in perfect sync. Rush handled the combat. Mikael ensured the defector and codes were extracted safely. In the end, they succeeded, but not without cost. The double agent was killed. Several Soviet soldiers died. The defector survived, but his family in the USSR likely paid a terrible price. Farewell at the edge of the world. On a cold Norwegian dock, the two young men prepared to part ways. Rush extended his hand. "You're a better man than I am, Eino. I respect that, even when we disagree." Mikael shook it firmly. "And you are the kind of man the world sometimes needs, even when I wish it didn't." Rush smiled faintly. "Keep watching your forest, Finn. The shadows never sleep." Mikael nodded. "And you keep burning only the bridges that need burning, American." They went their separate ways, Mikael back to his Finnish woods, Rush to whatever new shadow the Cold War required. But both men knew the truth. The border would call them again. And when it did, the forest guardian and the shadow soldier would answer, together if necessary, but always true to their own hard-won codes. The long game of the Cold War continued. And in the vast northern wilderness, two unlikely allies had left their mark on it.